Hello student, with a pleasant morning, I at Shivaji Group of Institutions welcome you all with a video lecture class. Today I am before you with a literature portion because in our previous lecture we discussed only about the updated syllabus of class 9 Icse board. I hope so that you people have no doubt regarding your syllabus or the preparation of the notebooks at all. So student, today we will start the new poem that is prescribed in syllabus, and the name of that poem is The Cold Within. The name of the poem is The Cold Within. It's written by James Patrick Kinney. Written by James Patrick Kinney. He is an American poet. So student, before starting this poem, I just want to tell you something about the literature. You know student that what is literature? What is the difference between literature and language? So whenever we read or study language portion, we have to focus each and every point what is taught to you. But our imagination form or enhancing the quality of thinking something more, we don't ponder the things at that time because we have to only get all the points clear. That is something else. Language portion is something else. But when we start to teach you literature portion, you have to ponder all the things. You have to start your deep thinking. Your deep thinking is required your literature portion. Without having a deep thinking, you cannot get all the points of the literature portion. So it is said, and you will know that literature is a mirror of the society. Whenever we read any particular poem, short story or the play, we must are having a source of knowing what is going on at that time. So we are going to start a poetry portion. We are going to start a poem that is a cold within. Fine. So what is a poetry? Poetry is a spontaneous overflow of the powerful feeling. So here, when we read this poem, so we will get something into our mind. We will feel just like that. It looks to us that that something is happening before your eyesight. We start imagination. We start thinking deeply. We start thinking something else like that. So that is the poetry. That is the poem. Fine. So this is the thing that I want to say before starting the poetry portion, because this is the first poem that is prescribed in your syllabus. Your unit's second test paper will be set from this poem. Fine. So the cold within. Cold within. Fine. So before starting it, I just want to tell you something about the poet. He is an American and British writer who wrote this poem in 1960. It is written in 1960. Although it was the first rejected, so it was something controversial poet. No one was getting this poet in an easy way. That's why it was rejected. It was denied at the first sight. But it really gained a lot of popularity and fame rapidly because of having a universal tone, because of having an objectivity in tone, because the poem is written in a very simple way, but it is profound in it. It is profound in it. It is deep in it. It really has a depth in that poem. That's why it gained a lot of popularity and fame. So if we talk about the James Patrick Kinney, so he was an American and British poet who wrote this poem in 1960, and firstly it was rejected and denied, and then after it gained a lot of popularity and fame. And what was happening? This poem is really having a pathetic and profound tone. Fine. So in 1923, he was known for his best poem, The Cold Within, which is a sort of a parallel during his lifetime, this poem was rejected by many publishers. In his lifespan, this poem was really dejected and denied and refused by many publishers because no one was accepted it in an easy way, because it was something controversial. It was full of prejudices and malice and materialistic attitude. That's why everyone was rejected this poem. It was at last published in the January 2000 issue of Linguarian, a Catholic magazine. It was the name of the magazine in which the particular poem, The Poet Within, was published. Many years after the death of the poet in 1974, Kinney has actually written many poems. So he has written many poems, and of which some are noteworthy as a better work. The better work is also some notable work. I Can't Change You, this one is also very notable work, and Never Alone, The Secret of Life, Who Am I and Who Is to Blame. So students, these are the name of the poems that James Patrick Kinney has written, and that's why he got a lot of popularity in his lifespan. So let's start the poem. So first we will come to know what is the gist of the poem, what is the central theme of the poem. Fine. So student, you can see that in this poem there is a six humans are there in the poem, and one other thing, there is a dying fire. The fire is about to die at the time. So let's see that this is the picture of this one. There is a fire. The fire is burning here. This is the picture of the fire. Fine. And six people are standing. Six people are standing or either standing or sitting around the fire. This picture, you can see that picture. And this is the one person. And one person is having a log in his hand. Second one is also having a log in his hand, a wood of log. And the third one is also having a log of wood in his hand. In the same way, fourth, fifth and sixth. So the scene is that six people are sitting or standing around the fire. And they all were having a log of wood in his hand. They all had a log of wood in his hand. This is the scene that I want to put before you, Icse. This scene is really very, very awesome scene. You can say that is a very different and peculiar scene that I want to put before you, Icse. Fine. So this is the scene before you, and what were happening there? The main points of the poem. Six humans are there, and the fire is about to die because we need some fuel to continue the fire. Without fuel, nothing can be continued. Nothing can be continued. And six logs of wood are there, fine, and none of them give up their log. So they all were having a log of wood in their hand, but they didn't want to give their logs of wood to continue that fire. They didn't want to contribute to continue the fire, to revive the fire, to revive the blaze of the fire, rays of the fire, fine, and unable to overcome prejudice. What was the reason behind that? Why were they not giving their logs to continue the fire? Because they all have prejudices. They all have some bias. They all have some partiality like this. And prejudice, what does mean by the prejudice? Preconception, pre-thoughts, the thing that has been coming from long and long, that is feeded, that is imbibed into your mind, that, and you can't overcome those things. Fine. So this is the thing that is happening here. The poet is going to explaining of the notion that unable to overcome prejudice, and the sixth one, the fire dies out. And what was the result? Is it the fire dies out, the fire diminishes, they too freeze to death, and all the six people dies. So this is the gist of the poem. This is the central theme of the poem. This is the picture of the poem that I want to put before you. And there is also a picture the people, those who have this type of the thing into their mind. And because of that, they all died. And this is a feeling of the sin. This is the feeling of something bad into their mind. And what was the sin? This is the reason of your sin. Because they all have a feeling of revenge. They all were having a feeling of anger, resentment, malice, prejudice, jealous, and malignity, and malevolence, like this, and materialistic attitude. Because they all were having a feeling of hatred into their heart. They all were having a feeling of materialistic attitude, resentment, wrath, anger, feeling of hatred, feeling of bias. They all have some prejudice to one another. So that is why they have got sin. They have got a tragic end of their life. So you people are getting my point, what I want to elaborate or put before your eyesight. The thing is that 6 people are sitting around the fire. The fire is burning at that time. We can say that there were 6 people at the time, and the poet has written this poem in a sarcastic mood, or we can say he was in a mood, or he want to express it before you the scene of that side. So 6 people are there who were trapped in a forest by chance, or any happening, it was happening. So they all were standing there having a log of wood, and the fire is burning, and it was really severely cold, bitter cold at that time. But no one wanted to give up their logs to continue that fire. Even they were feeling cold into their heart. They were about to freeze at that time. But none of them want to give up their fire. None of them want to continue the fire because of feeling of what? Because of feeling of prejudice, because of feeling of the revenge and wrath and the resentment and the feeling of hatred and malice that they people are having into their heart. So that is why. So this is really a universal, profound poem. This is really a universal tone. It also happens in our life. Because of having a feeling of hatred, we don't want to help to someone others. We don't want to give our own views to others, because ultimately we don't want to help that person because of having a feeling of hatred, because of feeling of jealous. If someone is getting progress day by day, so this is the thing that we don't feel good, we don't feel pleasure, even we feel jealous, even we feel hatred. Why this thing is happening to that person? We don't want to think that what is the extraordinary quality in that person. We don't want to compare the quality that person to other, but we all have a feeling of jealous and malice. So this is really a universal tone. This poem is really having an objectivity in that tone. So the thing is that I hope so that you have got the central theme and the gist of the poem. So let's proceed the poem. About the poem. The poet within gives us a useful message through a little story. 6 human beings found themselves trapped together in an extreme cold. It was a time of the extreme cold, and 6 people were trapped. 6 people came in the clutches of that fire, and their only hope of survival in the cold was fast time, because it was a time of severe cold. So that's why the fire is getting dying in a single of the minute. Fine. Each one of them had a stick of food. If any of them gave up his or her stick to feed the dying fire, it will be continued for a long time, but no one want to give it up. So, her stick to feed the dying fire, all of them had a chance to survive. Everyone was having a good chance to, but sadly no one of them was ready to oblige for one reason or the other. Because one person having a particular reason, and the second one also having a particular reason, third one, sixth one, fourth one, sixth one, and everyone was having a particular reason of not giving the fire, but not giving his log to continue the fire. This quote within refers the lack of feeling of for others. So this poem is really reflect an idea or the thought that we people don't have a feeling of others. We don't have a feeling of generosity or kindness, or we can say we don't want to oblige or thankful to other. Cruelty, indifference, hatred, so on and so forth, like a good brother. So these things were going on at that time. That's why they all six were not giving their logs to continue that fire. The fire was about to die. The poem conveys the idea that we must tolerate. If not love one another, we should be kind and generous towards our fellow human beings. So the poet James Patrick Kinney want to elaborate here that we must tolerate, we must bear some things. It doesn't matter if we don't want to generous or kind for others, but we must having a feeling of something for others. We don't have a feeling of hatred, malice for others. We should be kind and generous towards our fellow, because we people are human beings, and human beings are known for their emotions and feelings. We should not allow religion, color, or any prejudice to become mean. So this is the meanest of the all. Really, this is the disgusting thing in itself. Selfish and even self-destructive. So, being a human being, if we don't have a feeling of kindness, generosity, sharing, or helping to others, if we are seeing that someone in pain and we don't want to help that person, so we are not more than animals. We are like animals, because God has given a good body and structure, a good mind, each and everything we have. Still, we don't want to help someone else because of having such a bad and disgusting feeling into our mind. Really, it's embarrassing. It's embarrassing. Fine. So this is the thing that the poet wants to elaborate or depict before you. Now, the main points of the poem: 6 human beings trapped, the bitter cold sitting near. It was really bitter cold. Each of them had a stick of wood to keep the fire burning, because we also need some fuel to drive our bike or car or like anything, and we also need some fuel to continue the emotion and feeling that is into our heart. Isn't or not? If we have some feeling for someone others, so at that time we also need some fuel. Fuel means something extra. In that way, the feeling of emotion or the feeling of love or the feeling of likings can be continued. In the same way, for going on anything, we need some fuel to keep it on, to keep it. So here it's a matter of fire. So we need some fuel to continue the fire burning. The first one does not give the stick lest the black man should gain. So here are 6 people. The first one was not giving his log because of having a feeling of discrimination like this, and the second one holds on the stick because the other belong to other religion. So the first one was not giving his log because of having black complexion, and the second one was not giving his log of wood because of racial discrimination, and the third one, he was in taunt loss. We can say the third one was a poor, that's why he was not giving his fire. And the fourth one, that was a rich one, that's why he was not giving. And the fifth, the black man, and the sixth, others show to leave, and all perish from cold within and not. So we see that at the end of the poem, everyone dies because of not bitter cold that is outside that you can see, but because of the cold that they people have into their heart, the cold within their heart. It means their hearts are cold. They all have not a single feeling that gives you warmth, that gives you warmth. So what is the difference between cold and warm? Whenever we have some good feeling for someone, you have heard that we warmly want to we are really welcome you warmly. Why can't we say that I welcome you coldly? Because cold denotes a feeling that dies. A cold denotes a feeling of something hatred and like this, and the warm word denotes something, the feeling that really revive your heart. It really gives some pleasure. It really shows the vigor and the energy and the enthusiasm in your life. Have you got it? So this is the explanation and central theme and the central idea of the poem. So let's start the first stanza of the poem. 6 humans trapped by happenstances, trapped, came in the clutches of that. So it was happening at that time that the poet was in the sarcastic mood, and he was explaining of the notion that there were 6 people and they were trapped in a forest by any chance, by an accident, and in bleak and bitter cold. So what was the weather at that time? What was the situation at that time? It was severely cold at that time. They all were standing around the fire, and they all were having, each one possessed a stick of wood, or so the story is told. So it is said in the story that everyone was having a stick of wood into their hand. This is the first stanza. Let's proceed to the second one. They died by the need of wood. So as I have already taught you that to continue the fire, to continue the fire burning, it needed a lots of wood. But what's happened? But the first one had hers. Hers denotes that here is female, and she was having her log on her back. Fine, it denotes here. So she was a female, for of the faces round the fire, and she was seeing the faces of the second one, and this one is female, and she was seeing the faces of this one, and she was saying here, for of the faces round the fire, she noticed one was black. So she is white in color. She was having a white complexion, and she was having a log of wood on her back, but she was saying that I'll not give my logs to continue this fire, because the person who was standing before her, he was black color. He was having a black complexion. So that is the feeling that she was having. That is the thing that it was happening there. So the first one was saying that I'll not. Why should I give my fire to continue the burning of the fire, to continue the rays of the fire, because the person who was standing before me, that is who is black in color. So why should I have him? So you are saying that person is having a feeling of hatred because of color complexion, because of the complexion. And the second one, the next man looking across the way, and the next person who started looking across the way, the third one, saw one not of his church means he was not of his religion. So here we are seeing the racial discrimination. Here is a feeling of caste, custom and tradition. And it is said also by the Portia and the merchant of Venice when he was saying that I'll not marry the prince of Morocco because he was having something else like that. Fine. So this is the thing that the poet wanted to explain to the notion that he was having something other religion religion, caste and tradition and could not bring himself. I'll not also give my log to maintain the fire. The first his stick offered. So that person was not, the second one was also not ready to continue the fire because he was also appealing that another person was really different from his caste and custom and religion. The third one sang in tattered drawers. The third person who was really very poor, the third one, because that person was wearing very torn clothes, very dirty and torn clothes, and that person was not ready to give his clothes, give his log of food, and he was saying, why should this log be put to use? Why should I use my log to continue the fire? Why should I use? To warm the idle rich. And the last line it is written, the idle means lazy and the rich. So here there is a conversation, or there is a conversation between the rich person and the poor person. So poor person is saying here that why should I give my log of food to continue the fire, to give warmth to that rich person? Because rich person always torture me. Rich person always use me. Rich person are idle person. They are not laborious. They don't want to work at all. So why should I give it? Because they are using us as a servant. So you have seen that the first one was not giving his logs of wood because of complexion, because of having a different complexion, and the second one was also not in the mood of giving his log of wood because of racial discrimination, and the third one also didn't want to give his log of wood because of what? Because of having that status symbol, because he was very poor and the second one was very rich. So I hope so that all the three stanzas are clear you very well, and the remaining part means the 5 stanzas are left. There are 8 stanzas. I'll continue this lecture in our next video. I hope so that you have got it very well. Till then, thank you and have a nice day to anyone.